Hello, everybody. This is Philip Martin, and this is OnFilm on video. On your iPad or on your laptop, I don't know. But anyway, here I am. We're still doing this because we're still under house arrest, and we'll probably continue to do it even after we get back to whatever the new normal will be. I should say that there are two theaters open now in Central Arkansas, at least two that I know of. Riverdale, which has been open for months, and now the Rave is open. I don't know what the Rave is showing this week. Last week it was just showing classic movies. Check their ad. Check their website. Riverdale is showing two new films this week to just come out, Unhinged, which is a Russell Crowe thriller. I think it's along the lines of Steven Spielberg's Duel from back in the 70s. It's a road rage movie, and I haven't seen it, but I'm going to watch it as soon as I get done with this. And we also have Ethan Hawke playing Nikola Tesla. And if you're a Tesla fan, and I know some of you are, you'll be all over this one. It's a very strange, not entirely successful movie, but it's got some interesting quirks, and I like it. It's one of those movies I find hard to recommend to general audiences because general audiences tend not to like what I really like. But you're listening to this, so you may be different. Your mileage may vary if you're actually paying attention to the on-film, on-video column. Tesla's a fascinating guy and should have been the very first billionaire, the very first American billionaire at least. And you may know that he famously tore up a contract with George Westinghouse that would have paid him a royalty of $2.50 on every horsepower that was generated by his motors, which would have just been, and it would be going on in perpetuity and be generating billions of dollars a year for his heirs. But he tore up that contract, saved the Westinghouse company. He's the reason that we have alternating current in our houses. He had some big ideas about wireless power transmission and death rays. Yeah, death rays. And you guys who are into him will probably, sit around and, argue about this movie afterwards. And those of you who just think of him as the namesake of the electric car are going to go, okay. So Thomas Edison had an iPhone. Well, that's part of it. Yeah. Anyway, it's a funny movie. It is a quirky movie, and it is an admirable movie. Whether it is a movie to your taste, I wouldn't venture to guess, but you can read my review. Also, this week we have another film, Words on Bathroom Walls, which I was supposed to watch a few weeks ago, and I couldn't get the link to work, so Dan Liebarger has it, and he's writing about that. That's one of the things about our society now is like so often, and it's like I don't do things because I can't get the links to work. I mean, I can't master the technology. I'm teaching a class for LifeQuest of Arkansas, which if you're interested, go to LifeQuest of Arkansas. You can still sign up, and you can come see that class. I'm going to show some movies, and then I'm going to talk about them afterwards. And it's really interesting because I have over here, I have a DVD player that hooks into my hard drive, which is over here, which plays on this screen here, and through these headphones are these speakers, or I guess I can put it on Zoom and it will play through. When you share your screen on Zoom, you apparently can share like this movie. I hope. That's what they tell me. And I'm like thinking, this is great. I can show the movie, and then I can kind of stop it and pause it and make comments, or maybe even type in chat things to the students as it's going on. But I don't know. I haven't done it yet. And what I'm really going to miss is because if you've ever been in one of my classes, which I always have this thing about calling it a class, and that, because that posits me as this instructor, as this person who is telling people what they need to know. And what I'm really doing is trying to facilitate a conversation among adults about what we're watching, about the art that we're watching. And it's hard to say, but I really do try to read the room. I mean, I get in the middle of people, and I've often got like 100 people in these classes. I don't think I'll have that many on Zoom. They tell me I can get 49 faces up on my screen. There's no way I'm going to be able to monitor 45 faces. And I'm going to have some technical help in a building off-site watching this and talking in my ear, I guess, and sending me notes. And if I'm able to send chat to everybody, that would be great. And I just thought of that. So this is kind of like me thinking. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to show these movies, and then we're going to sit around and talk about them for 45 minutes. And usually when I sit around and talk about a movie for 45 minutes, I talk about the movie for 5 minutes. Then I sort of try to start little fires here and there in the audience and get the conversation going, and we go all different kinds of ways, and it's a lot of fun for me. It must be fun for some of the people because they've been coming back for 10 years or more. And it's great. It's a really good way to watch and enjoy a movie, and that's why I always like doing it. We used to do it every summers. Matt Smith would give us a theater at Riverdale, and we would sit there and watch it in the morning. Then we'd talk about it, and then we'd all go off to our lives. But now our lives are constricted in these spots, in these places, in my studio here, and I'm not going to be able to look into people's eyes. Maybe they're little beady eyes in the I don't know. I mean, it's like I've done a couple of Zoom things, and some of them have been pretty good, and some have been hilarious because people really don't have very good sense of how to use the technology, or they really aren't very self-aware about what they're putting on the screen. I could be guilty of that. And things happen, and I don't know, sort of like these video columns have kind of been a run-through for that, and up into, taking the girls up here, my dogs will make an appearance occasionally, I imagine, and we'll just see how it goes. I would invite you, if you're interested at all, the LiveQuest thing is just a really good deal, especially now, since it's all online, and you can just get it. I think you can get unlimited courses for like $65 or something. And I would encourage you, if you're at all interested, to sign up for it, and to sign up for my class to watch it kind of crash and burn or flourish. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's one of the things that was on my mind. I wanted to talk about, the technology befuddling us. Maybe, having dealt with this stuff, maybe we might have a little bit more sympathy for the task of people whose job it is to get these things up and out on the screen. I mean, I've never been to a screening. I'm talking about a one-off screening of a film where everything went perfectly and the director was really happy with the sound and the way the the picture was framed and the focus and all that. These technical things are really not that easily overcome all the time. I'm still struggling with how I'm going to play my DVDs. I might try and see if I can play something out of my iTunes catalog. Because one thing I can't do, and I had this schedule. I mean, I've got DVDs picked out to play, and I realize I can't play them because they're Blu-rays. And my fault. I don't have the capability of playing Blu-rays on my computer because I've never needed to do that. I've got a nice Blu-ray player downstairs. But I do have, the iTunes stuff, a library, a pretty good library of films that are in there, and I wonder if I could play those back at 4K or whatever on the screen. And then they tell me, the Live Quest people tell me, so don't worry so much about quality, the resolution and everything, because a lot of these people are going to be attending class on their phones, and some of them don't have the sort of resolution that you might have. So I'm, kind of like, well, what does it matter? We could just, kind of hold, I guess I could just kind of hold the movie up like this. Or I guess like that. Not there's no movie there, but, it's sort of like, we could, I sort of could violate all kinds of probably FCC rules by doing that. Like I could show you. I'm not going to do that. It's like, yeah, yeah, I could just, I don't have a movie up here, but if I did, I could just hit it and play it and, show it that way. We could work this out, I guess, but it's just so baffling. But anyway, we're back with movies in theaters that we can go see. And I've done that, and it's an interesting experience, and it is still satisfying. I mean, I don't know what your experiences at the movies are anyway, but ours experiences, we go and we sit in these big overstuffed chairs that recline, and we're sort of isolated from other people anyway. It's not like I have a lot of interaction with the people around me, and I really prefer not to. We don't eat during theaters. And it goes back to experience I had in 1969 at Red Sky at Morning, where I was a kid and went to the theater, and the smell of the hot buttered popcorn, which most people enjoy, kind of made me sick that day. I mean, sort of like, so anytime I'm in a theater, I don't really feel like eating because I can remember that I have that sensory experience. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't eaten at theaters at the, we've had dinner before at theaters like the Alamo, Draft House, and the Movie Tavern here in Little Rock. We've done that. And I will occasionally, have some popcorn. But, generally I'm not somebody who snacks a lot in the movies. So the concessions part of it isn't part of our experience generally. We don't, like I say, socialize with our fellow moviegoers, though there is something about that communal, response to what's going on the screen. And you still get that if there are enough people in the theater. I mean, I go to a lot of movies, and I'm talking about I go to a lot of movies that aren't like critic screenings, that aren't restricted, that are pretty empty. I've been in a theater often when I'm one of 2 or 3, 4 people, so it's because I go off hours. I don't go 7 o'clock a Saturday night. I don't. That's amateur hour. I'm not an amateur. I don't pay for movies either. Big deal. Yeah. See. But it's a different experience for me. But the experience I've had has not been qualitatively different since the COVID crisis than it was before. I mean, I'd be interested in other people's experience, people who do go to the 7 o'clock movies at the rave, to the big blockbusters, and have, and make a party of it. I'd be interested in how much different it feels. Anyway, well, I should tell you that, I've talked about this on the radio. Fridays, around 12:30, 103.7 The Buzz. I get on the radio and we talk. Justin Acree, Wes Moore. Okay, tune in. I've talked about this on the radio, but I should say that maybe the most entertaining thing I've seen in the past couple weeks is this The Go-Go's, which is a documentary that debuted on Showtime on August 1st. Now, why it debuted on August 1st and I didn't get around to it until this weekend is kind of a mystery to me because, I mean, I sort of try to pay attention, but I didn't even hear anything about it. And we were just scrolling around looking for something to watch, and I hadn't checked Showtime for a while. Not since Shameless went off the air. Homeland went off the air. It's sort of like having a little Shameless drought here, or a little Showtime drought here. And I saw it, and I said, oh, Go-Go's, you want to watch that? And Kieran's like, yeah! And it is a documentary that is just as ordinary a music documentary, as it can be in some ways. In that it goes chronologically, and it hits all the beats of the behind the music sort of template. You know, you've got your, beginnings, your spark of discovery, your first manager, the peak besting of some members, first blush of success, stardom, trouble in paradise, the breakup, fall from grace, reunion. Okay, it's perfect. I used to think the perfect arc of a rock career, and this is really grim, was like 2 years, 3 albums, plane crash, But no, it's not that. It's that you get to do it for. It's like golf. You can play rock and roll your whole life. We've demonstrated that, and it's really neat because one of the things about the Go-Go's, and I guess that everybody can relate to this in some ways. 3 of the girls, Jane Weedland, Belinda Carlisle, and I don't know. I guess it's Gina Shock. We're all class of 76. Graduated high school in 76. That's when I graduated high school. I was aware of them before they had their first, big record. And part of that was because I was in that I was in the music writing scene. I wrote a lot of, I probably had at some point the Stiff Records single version of We Got the Beat. And I probably reviewed, I can't find it, but I probably reviewed Beauty and the Beat when it came out in 1981. And I do remember that in 1981 I was in law school in Baton Rouge, and there was a band there that was basically a Go-Go's tribute band already, and it was these women. They called themselves Ladies Room, and I got to know the drummer fairly well, and I actually kind of wanted to be in that band because those songs are so fun, and I couldn't be in that band. Well, there's a lot of bands I can't be in, but I couldn't be in the band. But I remember, and the Go-Go's were, just this great, effervescent, totally adorable, band. And I remember the August 1982 Rolling Stone cover that had them all posed in their white Jockey or Hanes underwear on the cover, and which was an adorable photo, still is an adorable photo. And the headline was this cheeky, the Go-Go's put out, and come to find out, watching this documentary, which taught me a lot of things, actually. I mean, I was pretty well versed on some aspects of the band, but not the whole story. The band hated that. I don't know whether they objected so much to the photo or to the headline that they put on the photo, and it fell to the manager to call Jan Winter at Rolling Stone, the publisher, and complain about it. And he hung up on him. He said, "You girls ought to be lucky you got the cover, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this favor." And maybe that's the reason the Go-Go's aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which surprises me because I thought the Go-Go's were in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Though I will tell you, I give the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame about 2 thoughts every year. And my first thought is like, I'm glad it's there because it's fun to go to see it. And my second thought is that, you probably shouldn't even want to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if you're a real rock and roll guy or girl. It's sort of antithetical to the whole idea of rock and roll to have this sort of enshrined, pantheon of greatness. because the best rock and roll, some of the best rock and roll, is done by accident, by aspiring amateurs who can barely play their instruments, which the Go-Go's were at the beginning, but they got better. They got a lot better. I heard a lot of their, around 1994, they came out with the Return to the Valley of the Go-Go's, the box set, which had a lot of their punk recordings and early rehearsal tapes and stuff like that, and they really couldn't play. And the thing about the Go-Go's, I never even crystallized this in my mind. I never really, it never cohered as a thought. But there was always an assumption that there was somebody, not necessarily some guy, but somebody who put these women together, who looked at who saw how they looked, who saw the potential, and selected them for this band. And sort of groom them to be rock stars. I don't have any brief against that. I'm a big fan of the Monkees. I don't care how the Monkees got together. I don't care that they all went to the audition for a TV show and that they didn't play on their first two albums. Nobody played on their albums, and why would you when you had the Wrecking Crew to play on your albums? I think the Monkees are a great band. They turned into a great band. I really have a lot of respect for especially Nesmith and Mickey Dolenz, who had a great rock and roll voice. I like the Monkees. The Go-Go's weren't the Monkees. The Go-Go's were these punk kids living in this place called the Canterbury, which was a block away from this punk club called the Mask, which was in the basement of the Pussycat Theater, the X-rated theater that was showing Deep Throat. For years it showed Deep Throat on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles and in Hollywood. And it was a really small scene. There were maybe 50 punks, real punks, who, kind of hung out at the Canterbury, went to the Mask, went to a couple other clubs, and they were, they stole food. Belinda Carlisle, for a while, was actually making some money by playing the foreign currency exchanges rates, which I did. I did that when I was in Brazil at the same time, around the same time, around 1977. That's what I was doing. I was in Brazil, and I was playing baseball in Brazil. But I was also and I can't even describe the scam now, except that we'd go down to the tourist hotels and we'd buy American dollars with cruzeiros, Brazilian currency, and then we'd take those American dollars downtown and would sell them for a higher rate than we paid. But the rate we paid was higher than the official rate, which was what the tourists would get if they just went to, one of the currency exchanges, the legal ones. So, breaking the law. Yeah, we were, So Belinda was doing something like that. And I always assumed, and maybe, this is really bad on my part because it's total looksism. Because you look at Belinda Carlisle, and she looks like what she presented as, like the fresh-faced, scrubbed cheerleader from Oxnard. She had a horrible home life. She lived in poverty. It was, a single mom, or her dad deserted the family. Jane Weedland had kind of this, middle-class existence. Her dad was a surgeon at the VA hospital. But, she was this kind of troubled high school kid, very smart, but very angsty. All she knew was that she wanted to do something arty. And she ended up being dragged into this punk scene. So this band sort of organically formed. I mean, the original bass player probably had a lot to do with it. The original bass player, the original drummer, probably had a lot to do with recruiting Belinda and Jane, who were these two cute girls. And the original bass player and drummer were pretty cute too, as we'll see in the Showtime documentary, The Go-Go's. But they started out as this really bad punk band with some really interesting ideas. And they became more or less organically. More or less. I mean, they replaced some players. There was, the original bass player had to go because she wanted to be more punk, and they were being pulled toward pop for reasons that make a lot of sense. I mean, number one is that was where their strength lay. Once you start slowing down the songs, the melodies started to emerge, and Weedlin was becoming better as a guitar player. Belinda Carlisle was becoming better as a singer, and if you listen to the early stuff, you'll know exactly what I mean. She was not on key a lot. Of course, it's hard to be on key when you're playing in a room with no monitors and loud drums and guitars and stuff like that. Okay. But they become the Go-Go's. And the Go-Go's had this really good 3-4 year run. And it broke up. And it probably should have. Probably wasn't sustainable for the long run. But then they come back. And, and it's sort of like that. Nobody hates each other now, though you can still tell that there's some issues in the band. There's some things that sting. It would be like, if you got together with your high school buddies who you'd been on the outs with for a while. Yeah. But they're almost my perfect contemporaries. I did not know as much as I thought I knew about them. Charlotte Caffrey, who came on, was the first new member added, was the first real musician, a classically trained pianist. And apparently a real heroin addict in the early 80s through the 80s, and I never knew that. I always figured that Caffrey was the cleanest and the most professional one and the least likely to, party that way. But anyway, that's what surprises you. It's not a great documentary. There's nothing really. If you're a big Go-Go's fan, I'm sure you won't learn anything. I learned a lot because I'm a casual Go-Go's fan, though I really did like them. And you'll find out probably why they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which, again, I'm not so sure you should aspire to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but obviously people do. So, anyway, so we talked about that. We talked about this one. I don't know what we've got to talk about. I think I've talked enough about Scandinavian crime, drama. We're still deep into that. And just got into this 2018 series, and this is my pick to click. And I don't know where it originated. It might be BBC, might be someplace else. It's on Sundance now, called The Little Drummer Girl, which is a John Le Carre, thing. And it's really good. And it's Florence Pugh, who could play a 12-year-old in, what is it? The Little Women, Greta Gerwig's Little Women. But, she can do a lot more than that, too. So, anyway, we're out. It's less than a half hour. I wore clothes. I actually put buttons on. This is like the second time I've had buttons on in a month. And now I'm going to go out and do the rest of my day and treat people exactly how I would like to be treated. Bye, y'all.